Hey guys, Paulie from the Complete Personal Trainer podcast. Today, not going to talk about programming tip, going to be talking about something that a ton of people have been discussing with some serious intensity recently, which is the role of the scapula in the barbell bench press. Now, I think we have bigger things in the world to worry about, but this is a topic that a lot of people are interested in, a lot of people are discussing and arguing about. So we really need to dive into it, and hopefully I can offer something to the discussion as well, after being a rehab professional for the last 15 plus years, which makes me sound really old. So with the scapula, the original point of contention was, should the scapula be fixated in the bench press or should it move freely? So basically the whole idea in bench pressing that's been taught a lot is shoulder blades down and back, sitting into the back pocket and holding that there to have a mobile scapula with a mobile glenohumeral joint moving over that, applying force. And a lot of people have been talking about that's a non-functional way to train the shoulder. The scapulas need to move, the scapulas need to be free, and benching like that is idiotic at best. Yet, some of the best bench presses in the world, a lot of the best bench presses in the world lock their scapulas down and back and they bench press. So who's right? The answer is both. Both people are right, but it's different times, it's in different contexts and with different nuances. So we really need to look at task specificity for when we are actually programming something. And then with any negative that we have from specialization in a sport, we need to look at, are there any ways that we can negate that, which we'll dive into after task specificity. So if we're looking at the barbell bench press purely from a powerlifting and strength expression, not strength development, strength expression perspective, in the barbell bench press, if we get the arch in the thoracic spine, we get the shoulder blades down and back, we elevate the rib cage, what that effectively does is it limits the range of motion that we are able to take the barbell, because the bar will hit our chest, it will hit it higher as our back is really, really arched, which then maximize the amount of weight that we are looking to work. It really and truly makes sense that we are going to get the highest lifts out of that. And if you look at all the top bench presses, they set themselves up with a solid arch with their shoulder blades down and back, and they try and hold that position as they lower the bar down. They press until their elbows locked out, re-rack the bar. So from a contextual perspective, holding the shoulder blades down and back in the barbell bench press for the application and demonstration of strength in the sport of powerlifting, in particular the barbell bench press, is the best way to go about it. In the context of health of the shoulder joint, it's not the best way to go about it. If we're going to look at something that's probably a little bit healthier than that, a push-up is a more healthy movement. Now, a lot of people are talking about closed versus open chain exercises and how they don't really make a difference in the scheme of things. They do in terms of function, probably not so much in terms of bodybuilding as such, like physique development. But if we look at something like a push-up, for example, we get full scapular retraction at the bottom of the movement, we get full scapular protraction at the top, sorry to punch the screen, protraction at the top of the movement if we're doing the exercise correctly. So what we need to look at, and we need to take into design, is, are we training the person for the expression of strength and to demonstrate that strength in the powerlifting specific context, or are we looking at the application of function? If we're going to take that step of application and function one step further, our most functional in inverted commas, because function is a derivative of a goal, would be a standing cable push exercise where you push a cable like that, because you can set that up to mirror the gait cycle. And the two most functional things that any human being can do are either going to be breathing or they're going to be walking. It's really, that's what all function kind of comes down to at the end of the day. But the standing cable push, the issue with it is you obviously can't load up anywhere near as much to develop hypertrophy on the prime mover. So both of the parties are right. It's really depending on what you're looking for. So if I'm training a client whose goal is the bench press, you can be damn sure that I'm going to get them to retract and depress their scapula for that movement if their goal is to maximize their strength expression of the bench press. If they're looking at shoulder function, I'm going to be looking at freeing that scapula up, absolutely, and developing an ideal, what's called a scapular humeral rhythm, which is the scapula moving underneath and with the humerus in timed motion to provide optimal stability throughout all ranges of motion. Keep in mind that when I say stability, my definition of stability is maintenance of integrity in the presence of change, which basically means that movement integrity is there while there is change in joint. It doesn't mean rigidity. So a lot of people think rigidity is just locking things into place and they don't move. That's absolutely not it at all. You can be stable and still move. In fact, that's how it should be. So the question that we need to ask ourselves after that is, if we are going to bench press in that particular way, with our shoulder blades depressed, with our shoulder blades retracted, trying to maintain that huge arch? Are there going to be any concomitant increases of risk of injury or altered performance in other areas? And the answer to that is yes, of course. But the thing is, with specialization, there is always going to be a deficit made somewhere else via the sheer notion of specialization. So, for example, if I wanted to specialize as a basketball player and do that as my only physical activity, you would find that my pull strength goes away because there's no pulling in basketball. Yoga would be another fitness example where you do a lot of supporting yourself on your hands, but you never hang from everything. So that's a fitness quality that is lacking. So every form of specialization has its own benefits and drawbacks, which as coaches, we need to be aware of, and we need to come up with solutions for that. So if we're going to do an exercise like the barbell bench press where we fixate the scapula, a really simple solution to make sure that everything is okay and to really tick all our boxes, cover all our bases, is to program exercises that actually take our scapula through a full range of motion and do them properly. Things like landmine presses, things like pull-ups, stuff of that nature will allow the person to be able to express strength in their desired method of expressing it, which is a maximal barbell bench press. And then with their assistance exercises or supplementary exercises, we can still maintain the quality of their glenohumeral and scapulohumeral function. It's highly unlikely, highly unlikely, that a couple of sets of bench press, or maybe more than a couple, but bench pressing twice a week is going to totally destroy shoulder function and scapulohumeral rhythm in our clients. Humans aren't that fragile. They're infinitely more resilient than that, not resistant, resilient than that. So what we can do is we can compensate for the specialization in our program by providing an exercise that's going to train scapulohumeral rhythm, both against forces, so like a landmine press in terms of compression, where we're pushing forces away, and then also something like a lat pull down or a chin up, where we're pulling an object towards us. And you could even argue for closed versus open chain of that, although I don't think it really matters that much for this particular context. So guys, when you listen to these debates about scapular function in different movement patterns, think about what the goal of the movement is. If the goal of the movement is to maximize strength, probably rigidity in that situation is going to be pretty damn good. You're going to limit the range of motion, you'll be able to express more force. It's why powerlifters can lift more weights when they're covered in 2-ply lifting suits and belts and knee wraps and things of that nature. They resist movement. And then if you're looking at improving function in certain areas, allow the scapula to move in conjunction with the humerus. And basically, if it follows the elbow, it's doing a pretty good job most of the time. And that's something that I can address in a future podcast. So guys, hopefully that's added something to this discussion. Make sure that you always apply nuance, critical thinking, and shades of gray to every single thing that we do. Be aware that you'll make mistakes, and it's okay. And if you make a mistake with a client where they're getting them to retract their shoulder blades in something like an incline dumbbell bench press and holding it there, you don't have to stress out too much. You're not going to destroy their shoulders. Everything is going to be a-okay. Just program something else to work around that particular issue. Thanks heaps, guys, for watching. Please leave a review. Give me some stars. That'd be great. And I'll speak to you all real soon.